Today's episode is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/figureoutyourlife. With over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, and Kindle. Now let's get to the show. Welcome back, everyone, to Figure Out Your Life podcast, the place where we try to find the answers to life's everyday problems. I'm your host, Toya T, aka Toya T, PhD, aka Latoya Ashantel Tavernier, first of her name, Captain Save-A-Ho, president and client of the I'm attracted to fuckboys, but I hate them, and I need to find a way to keep them out my life club, aka a damn fool. All right, let me stop playing with y'all. Hey guys, welcome back. I know this is late. I know. I was called out by one of the listeners. Hey, Lily. And truthfully, I really did intend to put out this podcast earlier, and I realized on Sunday that when I usually try to record or at least start pulling information for the podcast, that I was just tired, and I really didn't know quite if I wanted to go with the original topic that I was going to go with, which I'll tell you right now, it's not the original topic. I had like all these other topics about girlfriend getaway, seeing that I am going on a girls trip with my friend Tania to Thailand, and I was like, I don't want to do that. I'll do that maybe sometime in January. Or, talking about how to deal with toxic family members during the holiday season, but like I'm not going to be dealing with that. And so I was like, I don't know if I want to do that either. And so I kind of just looked around and was like, what can I talk about? I really do want to talk about the fact that it is almost 2020. Like, we are in the last days of 2019. We're in the last days of this decade, the 2010s. And I wanted to do something that was related to going into the new year, because I pretty much I've had this feeling that 2020 is going to be such an amazing, great year for me and for other people, like people in my life. I just wish that for everyone, because I just feel like 2020 is going to be my year. It's going to be it. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be a year of growth. And I think that's the word that I want to focus on for 2020. I have seen it on like at least two different podcasts and like different Instagram pages that are about like self-worth and self-care and feeling good about yourself. And a lot of them were talking about, what is your word for the year? I think I heard it from Miley Teal on her podcast and maybe on her Instagram. And I know I definitely saw it on Dr. Joy's page for therapy for Black girls. And I was like, damn, I never really thought about what, the word is. I usually kind of have like a theme, like my queen year, my empress year, my goddess year. And I kind of even forgot what this year was supposed to be, but it definitely didn't turn out the way I expected, but definitely turned out the way it was supposed to. Because one, all of you know that I quit my job. I left my job. I separated from my job. I decided not to go back to my job. And they didn't seem to be too concerned about me coming back. It was like, if you heard the episode about when to quit and when to stick with something, that they were pretty much like, okay, have a nice life, deuces. It's unfortunate, but like, deuces. And I thought there was going to be some kind of like plea for me to stay, or some, right now it's not good, but like, come back. We'll try to figure out something for you. That didn't happen. But I definitely needed just to leave that situation. And the last few months, since I have not been working, since usually this is like busy time for me. Usually I'm like tearing my hair out and trying to fight, illnesses that all the students, have put together on their exams or their papers and have given to me to make some kind of super bug because I usually always get sick because those kids get sick and they don't take care of themselves, and then I touch their papers, and then I touch my face or eat something and I forget to wash my hands or sanitize my hands, and then it's over, and then I end up also grading things on Christmas Eve. And this year I don't have that because I haven't been working, and even with that, it wasn't like I haven't been busy. I've done a lot of things in the last couple of months, and I thought this would be a great time to reflect on that and also give some tips on how to make 2020 or the new year, how to make it a good year, let me actually get to my notes because I do make notes. As you can already see from the title, which I don't even know, but I wrote it down, is figuring out how to start the new year off right and make it your best year. And I guess I could also say that for making the next decade your best year, I wanted to do something that reflects on our past decade, being able to reflect on what, the accomplishments, the lessons that we have learned, the experiences from the last decade, from this past year, and then use that to propel us into the new year and into the new decade with plenty of tools to use to make it even better than this last decade, even better than this last year. So I'm going to give you all some tips that I'm also planning to follow, to 4 tips to be exact, on how to start the new year off right and make it your best year. So how to start off 2020 right and make it your best year, make the 2020s your best decade. So without further ado, here we go. Tip number 1, do a year in review. And the subtitle for this is Learn from the Past, but Don't Repeat It. Now, I think this is really important to do, and I usually do this myself, but in a different way. So I think it's important that we take time to think about all of this past year's experiences, and more importantly, hold on to the lessons that we learned from those experiences, and understand that everything that occurred last year was simply a result of us living, of our, just being human beings and being active and trying things out and just living our lives. And that we shouldn't get caught up in labeling those results as good or bad, or as successes or as failures. We should just see them as results of our life. We should see that as feedback. So if you do something, you're usually looking for some kind of feedback, some comments, some, ways to figure out how to do something better. And that's how we should pretty much look at our experiences from the past year, to learn from our mistakes that we made and make a commitment to not repeat them, to learn from our successes, but don't let yourself get too complacent or overconfident. So if we've had some wins this year, take that as like, yes, I have some wins, but don't use that as like, well, I can never do wrong now, my shit don't stink, because I've been so successful, because that things can change at the drop of a dime. I mean, look, for example, and I hate to mention him in my podcast, but 45. He thought he was just having like his best life ever, and that being president of the United States of America was going to be like the top achievement that he accomplished in his life. But then December 18th, 2019, he was impeached by Congress. And that doesn't sound like something that would have happened to somebody who wasn't just overly confident and constantly bragging about his win. Even when did he win? It was like 2016, and this motherfucker's been talking about this win since 2016, has had like campaign rallies since 2016. You won and you're still campaigning. You're still talking about your win. You're still talking about how you beat Hillary Clinton, and how many electoral votes that you got, and how people doubted that you'd be able to win, but you won. Why are you still talking about this all up until like the year before you go up for re-election? And because he was so confident that he could do no wrong, and everything that he's done so far he hasn't been punished for, that he didn't see this coming. He didn't see that he would have this blemish on his record, on his legacy. And so it's the same thing that we should learn. I mean, it's funny to use that as a lesson, but it is an important lesson to learn, that even if you have successes, when you've won, you haven't had anybody coming at you, you haven't had any obstacles in your way, that we shouldn't be complacent or overconfident. We should continuously be working on ourselves, continuously working like we didn't have a win, or that we're working towards our next win. That's what we should be doing. The actions that made you successful last year may not be the same actions that you need to take this year. Be open to new approaches, to learn new skills in order for us to continue to improve, to continue to win, or to have new wins, to create new wins, to accomplish new wins, that we need to just continuously be growing. But we also need to be cognizant of what we have done in the past. We need to learn from our mistakes. We need to learn from our past experiences. And for me, I haven't really been sitting down before the new year starts and doing that. Usually what I do is reflect on all of the amazing experiences, events, moments that I've had. And how I do it is that I have a French memory board that I made. You can buy these from like Bed Bath & Beyond or any home goods place that has like frames. But a French memory board is just like a memory board or a cork board, but it has like little crisscross lattices across it where you can like stick pictures and concert tickets and pamphlets and all kinds of things. And so what I usually end up doing, and what I have been doing since I've moved back to Boston, since I made this memory board, is that at the end of each year, I kind of just look at everything that I have done, that I've collected, and what I put on the board is like all things that I find important to me, like special moments, cards that people have sent me for my birthday, for Christmas, or just any kind of cards, thank you notes, new businesses that I've discovered that have sent me thank you notes, or have just their business cards. And so I can just tell you what's on mine right now, and maybe I'll post a picture on my Instagram. So if you're interested, I'll post it on Figure Out Your Life pod on Instagram so you can see it, and I'll put it on the Facebook group too. But for your own year in review, I suggest that you do the same thing. So either you get a memory board and you do it visually if you're a visual kind of person. If you're someone who likes to write things down, get a journal and journal about it. Get a cute journal. Go to Marshall's. I swear, I don't work for Marshall's, but I love it so much. And they always have like really cute notebooks. And so you can do that in that way. If you have a planner, go over all the things that you have written down in your planner. That is a good way to kind of review that. Or you can do like me. You could record a podcast, record a voice recording of you talking about all the good things, all the things that you've done and learned in this past year, in this past decade. Or you can make a YouTube video or make a video just for yourself. But like, find a way to sit down and actually take stock of where you have been and appreciate all your accomplishments that you have made in the last year. Now, if you want some questions to ask yourself, here is some questions, some typical yearly review questions that you should ask yourself, or you could ask yourself, not should, you shouldn't have to do anything, but some questions that you could ask yourself. So here are some questions. What went well for me last year, or in this last year? So what went well for you in 2019? For me, I know that what went well was separating from my job, because my health, life, just spirit just got so much better. And I feel like I'm in a good place to have a great 2020, to have all the things that I know that I deserve and I want in 2020. And I have the space and the tools to do so. Another question to ask: what accomplishments did I have? How did I improve my life? How did I improve my relationships? How did I remove from my what did I remove from my life that is not making me happier? So for me, that was my job and some friends that I told you in the last episode. I'm not interested. I'm not interested in having people in my life that don't seem to uplift me, care about me, respect me enough not to try to hurt me intentionally. Just not interested. And what do I wish I had taken more time for? I wish I had done more traveling. Even when I was teaching, I just wish I had spent more time traveling, more time taking care of myself, working out, eating healthy, than stressing out and dealing with the bullshit of my former workplace. I know that's for me. So those are some questions that you can ask yourself and use as a way to see what worked, what didn't work, what accomplishments you have, and what do you want to work on, or for the new year, for the new decade, or what do you want to remove from your life? What do you want to spend more time doing? So with these questions, you can keep track of these questions and your responses in a journal. that you can refer to back in the future. Or as I said, you can, put it in a scrapbook, put it in a planner, record it, voice record it, video record it, but put it someplace that you can come back and reflect. For me, I have this podcast. Isn't that great? So I think that these questions will help you appreciate all you've accomplished in 2019 and in the 2010s. I think it'd be a very useful tool. So I will put those questions. I will put those questions in the show notes. Actually, not. That'll make the show notes really long. Just take a pen and pencil. Should I have said that from the beginning? I'm so bad at this. Take a pen and pencil. I always give tips, but I never tell people to get a pen and pencil or write this down somewhere. I guess what happens when you have been teaching for a bit, because I'm always good to tell a student, where's your pen and where is your notebook? You have a pen and pencil? Do you have some paper? I can get you one. Number 2, get rid of the old and make room for the new. I am so about this. Trust, I have been purging, and I am good for a purge. I've been purging all year. I was purging this week. I was purging yesterday. I'll purge today. And I mean, like, just getting rid of old stuff and making room for new things in my life. I mean, I don't usually call it purging, but it's usually just me organizing or decluttering. But it's hard to plan for the future when things from the past are still pulling at you. And this can be all kinds of things, old projects, unfinished old projects that you have not done. So this is the time. You have some time to start off the year with some finished projects, or just drop them completely. Say that I am no longer working on this project and I have closed it and moved on. But if there is something that you really want to accomplish and finish, get it done so you can start off the new year with a clean slate without having all these things on your to-do list. Or this is a good time to make a plan, an actual actionable plan on how to accomplish these unfinished projects. So you can clear your plate for new projects so that you're not just piling on more projects on yourself. And that's the same thing for your home. Do not go into the new year with a dirty home, a cluttered up home, a disorganized home. For me, that is usually like the number one thing that I feel like needs to get done. Is to declutter your space. If you can't declutter the whole house, declutter your bedroom. Declutter whatever room is your happy room, your happy space, or whatever room that just like causes anxiety and just stress for you. So if that's your kids' room, your kitchen, your dining room, your office, like whatever room that just like that you don't want to, if you walked into it in the next year, that it's going to be like, I hate this room, and it's just going to cause you stress. So start off with that room. Whatever room that you feel that you can make a happier place for yourself. Especially if a space that you use constantly, if it's the entryway into your house that you feel like, oh my gosh, like when you come in, you just feel like you feel claustrophobic, start with that room. But whatever it is, declutter your life. And if you need tips on how to declutter your life or organize your life, you know who to hit up, your girl Toya T, because I love it. Okay. I love it. If you follow me on my personal Instagram, Latoya T, you might have seen several times that I've had projects where I have like completely reorganized the pantry, the pantry in my mother's house, the linen closet, my room, the closets itself. Like I had a whole under the crawl space. I had been constantly working to declutter this house, like constantly. I was doing it yesterday. After I went to the airport yesterday to drop my dad off because he's going to be in Canada for Christmas and New Year's, and he had I dropped him off like early in the morning, and when I came back, even before I had breakfast, you know what my ass was doing? Going through the Christmas stuff that was underneath the house and in other spaces, and taking them out and organizing them, finding places for them. I found a brand new like table runner, and I was like, what the hell? My mother just keeps buying things and just bringing them in the house, and I'm just like, lady, do you remember buying this? And she's like, oh, it must have been on sale. Okay, so but why didn't you tell me that you had one so I could put it out? So I took that out, found new ornaments, had to put that on the tree, like, because like she had a whole new set of ornaments that she had bought, but didn't put it back with the Christmas stuff. And I was like, this is why you need organization. You need all your stuff in the same place, and that is what I'm trying to do. I'm consolidating all the stuff. So I took all the Christmas stuff out so that when I pack up all the Christmas stuff at the end of the season, they'll all be in the same boxes. And they'll be labeled, and I'll know what's in there and where I can find them, because that is just oh my gosh, so annoying. But for you, it can be just something simple. But declutter your house and declutter your life, your personal life. And so dissolve relationships that don't support your success, your mental health, your happiness, that just doesn't serve you anymore. If it causes you stress, if it causes you drama, if you constantly have to put on armor before you have to be around this person because you don't like their energy and you know it's going to be a whole bunch of bullshit, if you have to like pretty much like be very self-aware when you're in that space with this person, when you talk to them, that is a sign that you need to get rid of them. And I'm not going to tell you to ghost. Okay, remember, we had a whole episode on ghosting. I don't think you should be ghosting people. I'm working on my own ghosting issues because it's not relationships. I usually ghost on like people in my professional life. When I don't want to do something, I just disappear, and I need to deal with that. There's 2 people I need to deal with, and I still haven't done it. I'm going to do it today. I promise you, I'm going to do it today. Hold me accountable. Like, say, hey, Toya, did you contact those people that you ghosted? Those 2 professional people. Those 2, those 2 people that you ghosted in your professional life. I'm gonna handle that. I'm gonna make my apologies and explain what was going on in my life because I don't think they knew. But go ahead and take them out. If it's your boyfriend, your husband, your wife, obviously it can't be your kids, so you're just gonna have to go to therapy for that one. But if it is, if they're minors. If they're minors, but no, still, if it's your kids, like that's on you. You need to go on, like, if you raise them, you have to go in therapy and deal with the issues that your kids have that are coming back at you now. But if it's like your adult family, your adult parents, if it's not serving you, if it's toxic, if it's causing you stress and issue and financial issues, stress or mental stress, psychological stress, spiritual stress, let them go and tell them, be like, you know what, this is not serving me anymore, or try to broach the subject. If you have like an issue with them, like I did last week, like I said, send out an email email or text if you're not comfortable saying it in person, and cut off the conversation when it's not serving you, when it's not going in a direction that it will lead to resolution. And so that is what I'm saying. Declutter your life, dissolve those relationships with people that don't support your success, your mental health, your happiness, and will prevent you from having a wonderful, blessed, great, lit, whatever you want to say, 2020 and 2020s. Okay, get rid of them, because I'm not trying to go into 2020 with no friendships that are not real friendships, no relationships that are not real relationships. I'm starting to see, like, I feel like it should not be that hard. It's a 2-way street in relationships, and if I have to work super hard to be your friend, to be your woman, to be your child, to be your whatever, then I don't need to be in it. I don't need to be in it, because there's so many other things I could be working on that I could be using my energy to do. So let's go on to number 3. So number 3, focus on what you really want. What do you want in 2020? I don't know what language that was. I don't know what accent that was. Ooh, I've lived too many places and picked up too many accents. Okay, so let me just repeat it. Number 3, focus on what you really want. What do you want in 2020? What do you want for the next decade? Put your goals in writing. And this is where I definitely, I'm not the best writer, but I'm a great storyteller. But one thing I have always been is someone who knows how to make a list. Okay, I've been that way since I've known how to write. Okay, I have always had a list. I've always had a list of things to do, books to read, toys I want. Qualities in a man I'm looking for. Put them goals in writing. For me, I have been using a passion planner for the last couple of years. and I'll put that in the show notes because I absolutely love this company. If you're into planners, like I needed a planner because I taught, and you need to be able to keep track of your personal life when assignments are due and all this other stuff. But you don't have to have it for academic reasons like I did. You can have for work reasons. You can have it for just life reasons. I mean, all of us have busy lives. All of us have different aspects of our lives that we have to keep track of. What events we have to go to, whose birthday it is, what bills are due. And I particularly just really like Passion Planner because you can write all that stuff down. It has like a timetable. It also has like things to focus on for the month. It has a month, like a review of your month, so you can go over like what did you accomplish, what were your goals for the month, did you accomplish it. It has spaces for you to write down your goals for the week, your goals for the day. What happened, what went well this week, what was a good thing that happened that week, people that you saw, things that you want to avoid doing. Like, I just really love it. And it is a woman of color business, and they're also philanthropic, so they will donate a planner to someone in need once you buy one. So like they have like a one, you buy one and they gift one. So I definitely like them. If you don't like Passion Planner or planners, just go get a notebook. Go get a nice notebook. Again, go to Marshall's or go to Target, go anywhere, go support someone that has stationery products, and write down your goals. Anything that is worth achieving is worth putting in writing so you can see it. Make a list of the major goals that you'd like to achieve in 2020. You can even, what I like about Passion Planner is that it also makes you think about in the future. So it could be for the next year, for the next 5 years, the next 3 years, a lifetime, the next 10 years. Like what do you want? What are you looking to accomplish? And put that in writing. Each of these goals should represent a significant milestone in the long-term vision, in your lifetime goals. How do you get there? That's how you make actionable plans. Like, you put down what you want, and then you start breaking down the steps that you need to take to get there. And so I know for me, for this podcast, I know for next year, I have big plans for this podcast. Like, this was my first year. I only seriously have been podcasting consistently from July until now. Because since I started the Podcast Moguls group, you can say from August, because that's when I started being able to track my stuff. That's when I switched over my podcast from my website to an actual podcast, hosting site. So I'm on Libsyn, where I can see my downloads and see how I've grown. And I can tell you right now, I am so amazed that I only put out one podcast this month so far, not including this one. And I'm already at 604 downloads this month with just one podcast, which means that people have been listening to that podcast and the older podcast episodes. And I'll tell you, for reference, in November, my total downloads was 665. That's where that number is coming from. And so, can you see how it is growing? Like, I'm growing, and as I learn on how best to market my podcast, how to spread it, that it continues to grow. And so my goal for next year, like I told you, I want to be featured. I want to be on Apple's list. I don't know if I'll make it to their list of notable Black podcasts, but I want to be on somebody's list. That's what I'm aiming for in 2020. I want to continue to grow. I want to get to my 10,000 downloads. I want to get to a place where I have over 1,000 downloads a month, which I'm getting to. If I'm at 600 downloads with just one podcast episode, imagine when Homegirl is really working, when I got a month where I'm just like banging them out. That was a snap if you couldn't tell, because I talk with my hands. So I know that to do that, to get there. So that's the goal, to expand the downloads and my reach of my podcast network, of my podcast, to build my Figure Out Your Life tribe. How I do this, I need to do more interviews. So that's on the plan. I'm going to do more interviews with people in my life that are amazing, that I feel like can provide information not only to me but to you guys out there. And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to work on being a guest on other podcasts. So, if it's, trying to get, I'll have a number. I don't know what that number will be, but since there's 12 months in the year, let's go for 12 podcast guest appearances, because that's how that's how you expand your audience, because then you're also being tapped into the other podcast audience and being able to help each other in that way, and they get, so that's something I know I want to do. I also want to put on at least one event that is tied to the Figure Out Your Life podcast and the brand, and I think that's enough. So you get it, like you have these goals, and these are things that you can also break down. So for being a podcast guest, I would have to, one, figure out which podcast I would like to be a guest on, then also send out a pitch email to the podcast hosts, and then figure out what I would speak about, so what I would be within the pitch. Like, these are all like actionable steps that you can cross off. So that's what I mean, like, make sure that you write it down, and then you're able to kind of focus on, how do I get there? How does this fit into my long-term goals, and how can I put them in short-term goals and to-do lists so that I can get this done, so I can accomplish this goal. So once you have your goals in writing, you have to put them in a place where you will be able to see them every day. For me, I have my French memory board. I also have a clipboard that is right below my French memory board, where I put things that I want to look at constantly. Right now, I have a copy of the, what is this, a poem? A poem by Marianne Williamson. It's a well-known poem called Let Your Light Shine. The one that says, well, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are we not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small doesn't serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us, that it's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And when we let our light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates us. This was actually something that I got from one of the professional development events that I was able to go to since I have been working. So when I went to the African American Women in Higher Education conference, they had copies of this poem, and I took it and I put it right up on my clipboard that's right next to my bed, which is also where my French memory board is, so that I can look at it every day and remind myself that I need to let my light shine, that I need to be unafraid, that I need to not make myself smaller just to make other people feel comfortable. Like, I'm loud, I'm opinionated, I tell jokes, I like to laugh at myself, I like to laugh at others. I'm also very observant. I can be kind of blunt sometimes, because sometimes my mouth works faster than my brain. But these are all things that are me and are a part of the amazingness that is me. But I need that reminder. So for the same thing with your goals, put them somewhere you'll see. Put it on your fridge. Put it on, in a frame next to your bed. Put it anywhere that you will be able to see it and remind yourself of what you need to get done. Give each goal a specific deadline. You know how I feel about deadlines. Like, I feel like these should not be hard deadlines. These should be soft deadlines. And then you should have a hard deadline. Because I wanted to get this podcast out on Mondays. Mondays is when I publish the podcast. Did I send it out on Monday? No, but it's Friday. It's in the same week. And I'm getting it done. And so for me, the soft deadline is Monday. The hard deadline is the same week. Like a new podcast of the week. Like that is my hard deadline. And so, that's what you should be focusing on, is like these soft deadlines and then a hard deadline. So when do you really, really need to get this done? When would you like to get this done? And so that you get it done somewhere in between there. And then start breaking them down into goals. Like I said, make it into actionable steps that you can take on a daily or weekly basis. So For me, it's like you write those goals down. I put it in my planner, and then you break it down. But they actually have like a template for it, so that's why I love Passion Planner so much. They'll take you step by step on how to make, these lifetime goals, these short-term goals, and then each month will force you to kind of put into what goal are you focusing on, and then for each week, what goals are you working on based off of your month goal, and then they keep you accountable. So that's what I like about it. If you think that what you want, like if you think about what you want, you should also try to dig deeper at the response. So for example, if what you want is to make more money, what is that money for? What would you do if you had endless amounts of money? Would you travel, volunteer, or live simply and quietly away from all? Like, what is the purpose of, what you want? We often think about that money is an end goal when we, when we really are just stuck in a rut and we think that we can't do or have what we really want unless we have more money. So if you think like, I would love to travel if I had endless supplies of money. And it's like, that's not what the goal is. Your goal is that you want to travel. And so your goal is to travel more, and money is just a means to that end. And so you should think about things in that way. Challenge the ideas, your goals that you have, and dig deeper into what is it that you really want? What is the purpose of it? So I know that I want to expand my podcast because I love doing it. I want to expand my podcast, and there's certain goals that I have to do. I also know that it is something that I want to be on my tombstone. This is something that I want people to know me as a podcast host. And so in order for me to have that lifetime goal be achieved, I have to continuously work on my podcast, continuously work on expanding my network, reaching out to people, being active with listeners, trying to find new listeners, trying to make sure that I'm covering topics that are relevant to my listeners, and then take every action that I can take to reach that goal of expanding my podcast so that it will be something that I can be known for, after I'm gone. So you really have to think about, like, what is it? So just don't put on, I want to make more money. If it's that you want to get a raise, like, put down what that raise is going to be. And if it's because that you want that raise because it's attached to having more responsibilities or whatever, like, put that down. Like, think about what it means deeper. Like, because you don't need money. You don't need endless amounts of money to travel, because you can travel with small amounts of money. You can get on a bus, you can get on a train, but the bus is the cheapest thing. You can do a lot of things. But you have to think about what is it exactly that you want, because it can't just be simply, I want to travel. Because if you want to travel, you can travel. So I tell people, I was like, you want to go to New York, you can get on the bus for $15. On a good day, it could be $1, because Megabus say they got a dollar rate. You can find it. You just have to do it way in advance, and it's probably going to be late at night. But you can get to New York for $1. I know I can get to New York for less than it would cost me to get to Cambridge in the same state that I'm in, which is only about 45 minutes away from my house. But if I took an Uber or a Lyft from my house to Cambridge, it would cost me more money than it would for me to take a round trip bus trip to New York on Greyhound or any of these buses. Just don't take Chinatown bus. I'm telling you right now, just save yourself the heartache, the hardship, and protect yourself, because when they crash, the driver's not going to be able to explain anything to you, because they like to exploit newcomers and make these newly arrived immigrants be the ones driving these buses 24 hours, 24/7, and they don't speak any English. So I'm just telling you that. A part of, let's get into number 4. So I did number 3. Number 4, this is the last tip. Put yourself at the top of your list. Now, this is not only for my working mommies, or just my mommies in general, because that's usually what people focus that on, because it's very easy when you are the mother, the caretaker of someone else, to put the person that you're taking care of, that you're mothering, ahead of you, and then put yourself behind. I'm talking to everybody: mommies, daddies, non-mommies, non-daddies. You're single, you're young, you're old, everybody. Put yourself at the top of your list. And I'm going to use the word that my mother likes to use as a derogatory term towards me. She's like, you're so selfish. But I'm going to use it in a positive way. Be selfish. Be selfish. There is nothing wrong about putting yourself first, as long as it's not going to affect the livelihood of someone else or the life of someone else. So if you want to be selfish and think, well, I'm going to go travel, and you got a baby at home, and you using money that you would have spent to clothe and feed your child to go on a trip that your child not going on with you, that is when selfish is not working. When selfish works is when you pay for a massage instead of buying your kid the newest toy. Like where you put yourself first, where you say no to things so that you can have time for yourself or do something for yourself. And so if this next year is truly going to be your best year, a great year, your most successful year yet, then it must be successful in all areas of your life. You don't want this to be the year where you get a big promotion at work, but your relationship with your spouse, with your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your partner, with your kids, with everybody, your friends, goes down the drain. You want this to be the year where your business thrives you don't want this to be the year where you professionally do well, but it comes at the expense of your health. You need to find a way to make balance a priority, even though like true work-life balance is not something that anyone can accomplish. I mean, even Beyonce, if you paid attention to the new interview that she has in Elle magazine, she talks about like that is one of her biggest challenges, is like trying to find a work-life balance and realizing that some things have to give. Like if she wants to be able to drop off her daughter at school and take the younger kids, the twins, to their activities and be able to get home in time to have dinner with her family and have date night with her husband, and run her businesses, that there are certain things that she's going to have to scale back on. Like you may not be able to tour every year. You may only be able to tour during the summer so that you can be there for the kids during the school year. You may not be able to go do this TV project if you're trying to be home to be able to do something. Like there's certain things that you just have to find a way to find a happy medium but that where you can achieve some kind of balance, because you're never going to have perfect balance, but you can find ways to get the scales to actually work in your favor, most of the times. And in order to do that, you have to consistently invest in each area of your life: your career, your relationships, your health, your leisure, your spirituality, etc., etc., etc. Whatever is important to you, whatever are top priorities in your life, you have to be able to invest in them consistently. Don't just be investing in your job alone and then you leave your friends by the wayside, or your health by the wayside. That's what I was talking about for me, that separating from my job and deciding not to go back was good for me on all other parts of my life, not just in terms of like, this is a job where it's a dead-end job that I don't see any kind of possibilities for promotion or advancement, but it also was affecting me like mentally, spiritually, psychologically. Like I was just stressed, angry, anxious, like all kinds of things, and health-wise, because I was always getting sick. I swear to God, I got asthma from working at that school because of the lead paint and asbestos that they have in some of those old ass classrooms. Okay. And I've worked in some very like dangerous, hazardous environments, but I worked through it. Like all kinds of things that I feel like my life has improved because I've been able to make equal and consistent investments in other parts of my life. Like when I was working and having to travel like an hour there and an hour back, and in between is like just constantly having to deal with students and grading and all this other stuff and my life stuff. I wasn't working out. I wasn't eating properly, because when I would get stressed, I would just go straight to Chick-fil-A or whatever fast food place and eat on my, like sitting in my car on my way home. Because that was like the best way for me to be able to eat and get someplace at the same time. Even when I packed my own lunch, there was sometimes I wouldn't even have enough food to like last me through the day, or I would get so stressed out, I would go and stress eat, and would not, by the time I get home, it'd be too early for me to go work out before class, because I used to have to leave at 7, wake up like at least 5:30 to get to work for my 8:30 class. And then by the time I got home, I'm exhausted from just from the traveling, the commute. And so I just wasn't able to work out the way I wanted to because I was teaching more classes and a whole bunch of stuff. But again, now I have the time to actually do that. I make sure that I am active every single day. It may not be going to the gym, but I make sure that I go to the gym at least 3 or 4 times a week, particularly to run because I don't really like running outside, but I've also incorporated that too. I like walking, so I invest in that to make sure that I'm dealing with the health part. I invested in a food delivery, service where they're sending me like fresh, individually packaged lunches or dinners, which keeps me from going to the fast food joints that I loved going to, and has been helping me with my health and also been encouraging me to cook more. Well, also my mother is, because she keeps threatening to kick me out if I don't cook for my rent. So I've been, using my cookbooks more lately and, experimenting and making more stuff. But then I've also been working on this podcast, working on my job materials, trying to find somebody on Bumble to date, but it is dire. I don't know what the hell's wrong with some of these men on here, but you heard my experiences on the online dating episode. But if you want to update right now, I have left Tinder for a little bit to concentrate on Bumble because I can only concentrate on one thing at a time. And I've been trying to say yes to more people, but then when the conversation starts, it's a big no. The big no. But there's that is me trying to make, investing in each part that I need to be able to feel balanced and whole and happy and healthy, and putting all that energy in my job was not working, and that's why it had to go, so that I could find a new job where I can invest in that in an appropriate way that allows me to still have enough energy and time to invest in the other parts of my life that are just as important or even more important to me. So you just have to find a way to make time for it. Figure out what times and days work best for you when you're looking at this. And so remember that it's not about the amount of time you give to each area. It's about the quality of the time that you give to each area. So some areas require several hours per day and some only require a few hours per week. So just make sure that you know how much time each thing takes. If you want to spend more time working on your mental health or your spiritual health, you can, you don't have to go to a yoga class or go to a retreat. It could be as easy as 15 minutes in the morning meditating. Like waking up 15 minutes earlier just to sit in silence, sit in a happy place, read a book, listen to, I know they have some of those ambient sounds or whatever, like one of those apps that help you meditate. Like you can just take the time, or 15 minutes before you go to sleep, like whatever it is, during your lunch break, you take a 15-minute walk, or you go someplace and just sit, or you turn off all the lights in your office and just sit. Like you can find ways. Now, it doesn't have to be an all-day thing that takes up a lot of time, but you just have to make sure that you pay attention to the quality of the time and not the quantity. Here's another thing that will work that I think should be a part of your putting yourself at the top of your list. So after making balance a priority, learn some new skills. There's nothing wrong with learning new things. I think that is how we improve. I think that that new goals require new actions, and new actions typically require new skills. You need to learn new things. Take a moment to identify some of the skills you would like to acquire this year. I know in one of Myleik Teal's podcast over the summer, she was talking about learning new soft skills. Like if you feel that you need to work on your writing skills, your networking skills, your accounting skills, like work on whatever skill. Like you should be constantly working on bettering yourself, especially at the skills that people seem to think is not as important. Working on your spelling, working on being able to draft an email, being able to know how to create a budget. Because trust me, that's what I realized, that I want to be working with kids in college readiness and just life readiness, because a lot of them don't know shit. I don't know what's going on in their lives, or what the school system or whatever, this new world that we're living in is doing, but they ain't teaching them, not teaching a lot of them stuff. It's not teaching a lot of kids important stuff. And so working on those skills, like you can find lots of online classes, local classes, seminars, webinars, that where you can learn something new, that all skills are learnable. Like, let me go back to my sociology and particularly my criminology teaching days, where, you know, we had these theories that talked about, like, you know, no one is born bad. Like, people are born like no one is born a criminal. Like, all things are learned. Crime is learned the same way that committing a crime is learned the same way that tying your shoes is learned. You need to have a mentor. You need to have, these are the learning, social learning theories, if you're interested in going deeper into it. They're saying that we learn from other people. Like, learning to tie your shoes and learning how to steal a car involves the same processes. You need a mentor. You need to be able to practice your skills, and you need someone to correct you when you're wrong and validate you when you're right, so that you learn how to do this thing on your own. It's the same thing. Everything needs to be learned. You just gonna have to find a teacher, and the teacher doesn't have to be a person in your face. It could be me just listening to my podcast, giving you some tips and strategies. It could be any kind of webinar. It could be a community college class. It could be anything. There's like plenty of I know there's Skillshare. That's like a online program where people can learn different skills from other people online. And I'm sitting there talking about them, but I'm gonna need them to freaking, be promoting this podcast. I'm gonna need them as someone, as a sponsor. I need to be sponsoring this podcast. I'm sitting there talking about them. But we just don't make excuses for not learning new skills. We need to stop making those excuses. People who stop learning new skills are the first ones to become obsolete in the marketplace, and they're also the first ones to die. You ever notice that people who retire and don't have a hobby to keep themselves busy die a lot quicker than those who, after they retire, find new skills? So when you see them older people like going to swim classes and learning how to use computers and, learning how to knit and all this other stuff, that is them keeping themselves active in the mind. Because once the mind stops being active, the rest of you's dead. Because that's how they determine, that's literally how they determine if you are dead or not. If you are brain dead, you are legally dead. You might be breathing, you might have other organs working, but if you are brain dead, like in the medical community, in the legal field, you are legally dead. And that's why you have to continue learning. If you stop learning and stop using your brain and stop, learning new things so that it can continue to fire and work, you are literally dead and you will die. That is what happens, is that people just kind of lose a will to live, or they just die. I think it's just brain death, from not continuously feeding your brain new information. And so that's what you need to continue to do. One of my aunts constantly gets on my grandmother for always working on Sudoku and crossword puzzles and stuff. I'm like, lady, this is why my grandmother's in her 90s, okay? And that's why you are 70 and acting and feeling and looking older than my grandmother, okay? Older than your own mother, because you are against actually using your brain to learn new things and new skills. Like, my granny is using her brain. She looking for them words. She is, circling the words. She is crossing out the words. She's putting in the numbers. And that is how she's keeping herself active. She's going to exercise classes. I was like, well, my granny go to exercise classes? My granny was working out more than I was earlier this year. I was like, damn. Because at her senior living center, they have a gym and they have a workout class. She was going to workout classes. She was learning how to knit, all this stuff. I said, that is why my granny is still sharp as a tack. Those are my snaps, if you can't tell. That's why my granny can tell me today the story of my birth, because she told me about it maybe within this last decade. She was able to tell me from the time that she left Dominica and got a passport and a visa and came up to Boston to help my mother right before she gave birth to me, and then told me the entire story about the day that I was born. Amazing. Okay. That is what I want to be. And that's because my granny keeps herself active. She praying, she reading her Bible. You got to keep going. Okay. Keep going. Keep moving. Keep learning. My grandfather died over 25 years ago, and this lady is still going, okay? Still got plenty of life to live, plenty of things to learn, and that's why you have to keep yourself going. Don't kill yourself early by not learning new things. Don't kill your brain and become brain dead and then be the walking dead because you're not learning new things. And with that, I am done. This is a quick one. I'm under an hour. This is actually the last podcast episode of this year. There will not be one for Christmas, and there will not be one right before New Year's Eve. But there will be one in the new year. So I want to thank everybody for continuing to listen. Again, if you like the podcast, please share the podcast with other people. Share it with your enemies, share it with your friends, share it with your loved ones, share it with your unloved ones, your hated ones, anybody. Share it with everybody. Tell everybody that Toy T got a podcast. It's called Figure Out Your Life Podcast. If you have not done so and you listen to this on Apple iTunes, or if you have an Apple account or an iTunes account, please go ahead and subscribe. But rate and review this podcast. It doesn't have to be long and elaborate. It could just be like, I love Toy T, she's so funny, or great podcast, or whatever. Or keep doing your thing, girl. But that's how I'm going to get to my goal of being featured as one of the top podcasts somewhere. Hopefully on Apple, so hopefully somewhere else. But if you don't listen to it on Apple, you can do it on Spotify, wherever you're listening to this podcast right now. Just make a review. Please. Just put it on the platform so we can get more recognition and continue to grow, and I can hit my 2020 goal of just being recognized and growing this brand. And again, I appreciate you guys. I hope you guys have a absolutely blessed holidays. If it's Christmas, if it's Kwanzaa, if it's Hanukkah, if it's nothing, just have a great end of December. Be blessed, be safe. Please focus on your happiness. Remember, it is the season, but it's the season of giving, of loving, and just being, joyful. And so let's try to focus on that. And with that, I'm going to go now. Have a happy holidays and a happy new year if I don't speak to you before then. And we will talk later. All right.